Okay.
Okay. We are going to obviously have a slideshow, and I will tell you a little bit about what we're going to talk about, but a couple of things. You might be better off in a view that's side-by-side gallery if you know how to adjust your view. That might show the slides at their most advantageous. And whoever is speaking is just going to be a little yellow outline on their view. Please mute yourself and keep yourself muted during the speaking time, if you don't mind. Put your questions into the chat, and we may have a small enough group. I mean, we will deal with questions at the end that are in the chat, but we probably have a small enough group that we can have a really nice discussion as well afterwards. Yeah. After our main topic, if we have time and everybody wants to hang around, we can talk about whatever else you want to talk about Belarus SIG type things. So obviously you have all heard the news about the difficult, to say the least, circumstances going on in Belarus. And we are really honored today to have with us a guest named Marina Lvova, who is a member of an organization called Belarusians in Boston. She's a Belarusian Jew who immigrated to the United States. And she and Joel Schwartz, who is one of our members, are going to present this topic, Belarus Yesterday and Today, Jews and the Movement for Democracy. So really fascinating. Joel contacted me a couple of months ago and suggested this topic, and has volunteered his time, as has Marina, to put this together and talk to us about this. So my thanks go out to them for all of their hard work and their effort and their initiative. Joel, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. They're going to give you a lot more details about the organization, but mostly they'll talk to you about how the evolution of the Jewish population occurred in Belarus, and then talk about a lot of what's going on now. So I will turn things over to Joel to get things started. And again, don't forget to put questions in the chat, and we will go through them at the end. Thanks for coming. And thank you, Joel.
And thank you, Sonia, for organizing this. I really appreciate it. Marina and I are really thrilled to be here talking to you. Just to introduce me a little bit about myself, the most important thing is that I happen to be a grandson of four grandparents who are from 4 different places in Belarus. They're from Vitebsk, Mogilev, small place called Cherikov, and Osiori, a very small place near Grodno in the west. And I became connected to the organization Belarusians of Boston in September of 2020. We'll talk about the organization a teeny bit at the end, but I had the good fortune through that organization to meet Marina and so many other good people. So now I'll turn it over to Marina to introduce herself.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your time and attention. And my name is Marina Lvova. I was born in Minsk in Jewish family. My parents both are Jewish. My mom originally from Belarus, my father from Ukraine. And I moved to Boston in 1999 with my parents, my husband, and my young son. My previous degree was in Slavic linguistics. I speak many languages, 6 actually. Unfortunately, not Yiddish, but I speak German, and I speak a lot of Slavic languages like Serbian, Macedonian, Bulgarian, Polish, Belarusian, Ukrainian, etc. And my second degree in project management was in Jewish University, in Brandeis. So I get acquainted to culture of Jews in America in my 30s. So, and now I'm involved with many projects about international education. I'm teaching project management in business schools in Central Europe and Central Asia. We have language school here in Alston. People coming from all over the world study English and get American education and way to study and work in America. So, and since summer of 2020, I was involved with everything happened in my home country in Belarus. So we're gonna talk about past and present, and I would like Joel to start our presentation.
Great, thank you. Next slide, please. Oh, no, before the next slide. No, go back to the back one. Okay. So I want to tell you two stories that I think really illustrate what this whole topic, what we'll be talking about today, are all about. Where my grandparents, as well as my great aunts and my great uncles were from, was always a mystery to me. I knew that they were from someplace in Russia and I had some names, but I couldn't picture it. I had no idea. So about 10 years ago, I was on vacation in Martha's Vineyard, and I was in Oak Bluff sitting in front of the wonderful bakery and near the post office there. And I was sitting on a bench, and there was a young man sitting next to me, and he turned to me and he said, do you happen to know what the postage is for a postcard to Belarus? And I looked at him and said, I have no idea, but wait, Belarus, are you from Belarus? And he said, yeah. And I said, that's where my grandparents are from. And he said, oh, where are they from? And my mind went sort of blank. I couldn't remember the names, but I did remember one of them, Vitebsk. They were from Vitebsk. And he said, oh, that's such a beautiful city. City? I had no idea that it was a city at all. All I had in my brain was the word shtetl and some pictures coming from Fiddler on the Roof, basically. I thought that's where they were from. And so I realized that I had no idea what it was like where my grandparents were from. Now, in 2017, I had the good fortune to go to Belarus with my son and go to Vitebsk, and I discovered a city of 360,000 people now, a vital city, a vibrant city, and I learned things about the country today that I never even imagined. I'll tell you a second story. In August of this year, I went to a meeting of a family reunion of cousins down near Philadelphia. And I was talking to somebody. It was somebody I didn't know particularly well. And I was told her about my trip a few years back to Belarus and my interest in where our ancestors, our common ancestors, were from. And she said, oh, my grandparents, they never talked about anything from over there. It was just too painful. They just said nothing. And I said, well, if you're interested, I could tell you about what the country is like now since I was there. And she turned to me and said, no, I really don't want to hear about that because it's too painful for me too. And I think my experience with many Jews in the United States here is that, in fact, a lot of us haven't heard much about what it was like there and what it is like in the country of Belarus today. And partly because of that sort of shroud of pain, partly because of missing records, there's a variety of reasons. But today we're going to explore the past a little bit, but also what this country is like today, the country that we're all connected to. And I want to start by looking at the topics. There you have what we're going to go into today. So first, you're going to hear from Marina in a minute, a brief history of Jews in what is now Belarus. Then we're going to talk about Jews in Belarus today and what the Jewish communities are like there. Then we're going to talk about the most important development in Belarus recently that is ongoing, the movement for democracy in Belarus. And then we'll briefly talk about the organization, Belarusians of Boston, that we're both part of. Then Marina will talk about something I'm sure you're very interested in, is accessing the Belarus archives. And she has some ways to do that and will be very helpful there. And then we'd like to hear from you. Questions, you can put them in the chat, or you can raise your hand at the end, and we'd love to hear your questions or your comments, and maybe you've been to Belarus as well. I'd just like to see, because I'm very curious, if you can raise your hand.
It was made,
either-
or it was about to be. I guess it was about to be.
Well, there can.
Joel, you're muted. Joel,
Okay,
Joel,
yes, I'm
Yeah.
unmuted now. I don't know how
Okay.
that happened. What was I muted for a while?
just maybe a sentence.
Okay, so I'm curious to know which of you have been to Belarus. Please raise your hand if you have traveled to Belarus. I see one hand.
I know Leora and Enid have been
I see
there.
Enid's hand there. And okay, and there's some people who don't have their cameras on, but okay, so some of you, but most have not. Okay, so that's what we'll be doing today. And now I'd like to turn it over to Marina to talk about the brief history of Jews in Belarus.
Thank you. Yeah, and I don't know how familiar you are with the history of Belarusian Jewish history, but it's known fact that Belarusian people, Belarusian Jews, start living in the country in the western part of Russia and eastern part of Poland and Lithuania since 14th century. Of course, they didn't interfere with Russian, Ukrainian, Lithuanian, Polish people. They live in their own communities. But all of us, we know that Jewish people are bright and smart. And in the end of 18th century, Jewish population in this part of the world became pretty big and educated in terms of Jewish education, good in different type of craft, finance, and of course people who getting money and power wanna become somebody else, not only farmers or workers, but the queen or Tsarina of Russia, the Catherine II, decided to make certain boundaries for Jewish people, and they've been allowed to live in certain places if they're not changing their religion. And on this map, you see Pale of settlements started in 1772, became official in 1791, and it lasted till October Revolution in 1917. Jewish population of Belarus, if you see, for 2 centuries changed a lot. When we're talking about beginning of 19th century, it was about 230, 250,000. It getting more and more till the end of the 19th century. And starting 1970, we can say that immigration to Jewish people from Belarusian Polish region started. I've noticed that a lot of people came from Belarus or Russian Empire of this part in the first decade of 20th century. It was two very big problems, economical problems in Russian Empire and religion problems. Rules in United States let Jewish people be people with the same rights as Christian people. That's why a lot of them moved to United States. And after October Revolution, Jewish people became, as everybody I guess know, very powerful in new Soviet regime. They got a lot of position in the government, but of course they've been killed during repression of Stalin regime. You can see that by the end of 30s, when Western Belarus became part of Soviet Republic of Belarus, it was almost 1.1 million Jewish people on this territory. And after World War II, 80% of Jewish population were killed. Actually, my mother family, my grandmother has 10 kids, brothers and sisters, siblings, and most of them, 7 of them, were killed in Minsk ghetto with their kids, grandkids. My grandmother with my grandfather and my aunt has time to move from Homel to Volga region and Siberia, and my mom was born during this time in 1943. They returned to Belarus after World War II, and they found only graves. Nobody was alive. Just two my grandmother's brother came from the war, wounded but alive. And it's story of my family, it's story of many families of Belarusian Jews. We have monument in Minsk. Every year, I remember when I was teenager, we were coming to this place to thinking about our relatives, our families, all Belarusian Jews who were killed during the World War II. In Soviet time, after the war, you can see on this picture, we have only decrease of Jewish population. In end of 70s, before Olympic in Moscow, Brezhnev allowed Jewish people go to Israel, but 70% of them, moved to United States and Canada, and the major population settled there. In the beginning of 21st century, people like me, it was very last Jew, as everybody call us, moved to America, and now population in Belarus is only 13,000 people. Most of them are, of course, in Minsk, Grodno, and Vitebsk. So it's not very, lovely story about Jewish people and history in my country, but I want to show you the Jewish population in Belarus in the end of 19th century and beginning of 20th century. You could see that in Minsk, Jewish population was about 53%. And remember, my grandfather told me that when he was a student in university in Minsk, he was born in Minsk in 1908. he remember people talking Yiddish everywhere. So everybody speaks Polish, Belarusian, Yiddish, and Russian. Homel in Pinsk and Brest, all these cities and towns were situated by Jews. And as a person who graduated from university with background in linguistics and literature, I could say that 70% of writers and poets in Belarus called them Belarusian writers and poets, but 70% of them are Jewish. So Belarusian culture and Jewish culture are so close to each other that it's very hard to divide them sometimes. And this picture, I want to tell you about modern Belarusian story. It's my son and his wife. They got married in Minsk last year, 2020. And this is a lovely story about how my family got back to our roots. My son was born in Minsk and we moved to Boston when he was 5.5. He studied mathematics and statistics in university, went for a semester abroad to Prague, fall in love with Jewish culture of Eastern Europe, and got his first job in big American company founded by 2 Belarusian Jews. It's a company called IPAM. It's 35,000 people all over the world. Very, very successful. And they offered him to study his professional job back in Minsk. And he told me, Mom, I'm gonna work there and I wanna find my real life, my Jewish wife. I say, it's no chance you're gonna find your Jewish wife because there are no Jews in Minsk. My son went to synagogue, found young people who study history and culture. And during one of the meetings, he saw the girl, he started talking. It was end of December 2017. In February, right before Valentine's Day, he called me and told me that, Mom, I think I found the right girl. I met her in 3 or 4 months, and it's hard to explain, but it's like it was my own daughter. Smart, nice, clever, very gentle and kind. They got married. They're still in Minsk now, waiting for interview in American embassy to come back to United States. And she is Jewish. Her parents are Belarusian Jews, and her grandparents came from Palestine to Belarus to teach people Torah in the beginning of 20th century. So it's like fairy tale, and it's story of my family. So it's Belarus today. And now I wanna, Joel, continue our presentation.
I think the next couple of slides are still yours. You're going to talk about, yeah, like that. Go back to the
okay.
no. Go back. No, after that, please.
Yeah.
After that. Oh, you're going to talk about this.
Yeah, I already talked about it before, because now we can see population of Jews now in Belarus. It's 0.6% in Minsk, 0.2% in Grodno, etc., etc. Which is good about modern situations, that we have a lot of rabbis coming from Israel, Canada, and United States to help this small community still be alive, to teach young people Jewish history and culture, to help Jewish kids going to Israel to get education there and to build family there. And in terms of synagogues, you can see that very few of them are active, and some of them look modern, like synagogue in Minsk, like synagogue in Vitebsk. I saw a couple years ago, I saw Hrodna Great Synagogue after renovation. It's really looks beautiful and became one of the best attraction for tourists in Hrodna, in addition to Jewish people. And also, it's an ongoing project, the synagogue in Slonim, and they have a lot of money and time and effort to put into this synagogue, and I hope in a couple of years it's going to be a live, beautiful synagogue as a part of our culture, history, and attraction. And of course, you can see abandoned synagogues all over the place. I have a friend of mine in Minsk. Her son did very interesting project research about shtetls and synagogues left in small Belarusian towns and even villages as a monument of culture and history of people who are gone forever. And I hope when regime in Belarus will change, I hope a lot of people with background and roots in Belarus will come and probably invest money into synagogues renovation and keep history of Jews there alive. Again, it's hard to emphasize how vital Jewish culture was in Belarus, in Belarusian culture. So, okay, now I'm gonna continue.
I want to talk about briefly, since time is sort of zooming by for us, anti-Semitism in Belarus today. Do you want to briefly at least summarize that?
You know, probably we can talk about it later on when we're talking about situation with regime, because
okay.
I want you to talk and
okay.
I'll just.
Good. Okay, so we're gonna talk about some really tremendous events that are happening, historical events are happening right under our eyes in Belarus today. And I'll just mention that back in 2017, when my son and I were in Belarus, traveling around and meeting with different people in their homes, we would be sitting in people's homes and talking about a variety of things. And I would ask them, so what do you think about the political situation in your country today? And almost inevitably, they'd say something like, oh, we have this terrible dictator. We just can't stand him. He keeps doing horrible things all the time. But what can you do? I mean, he controls the army. He controls the police. You know, if you try to, protest against something he's doing, then you'll disappear and nobody will ever see you again. So that's it. So what we saw at that time was a lot of hopelessness and powerlessness. And then in 2020, everything changed. Just to give you an idea of what happened, and I'm going to try to really shorten it because I want to make sure we have adequate time for questions and answers. Yeah. But so in 1922, most of what is now Belarus became a republic of the Soviet Union. In 1991, as the Soviet Union was breaking up into a variety of different countries, Belarus became independent. And then under the new constitution in 1994, they had an election. Under that constitution, every 5 years, there would be an election for president. And a man named Alexander Lukashenko was elected president, and people had high hopes for him. But what has happened over the years since, between then and now, is he proceeded to consolidate power, destroy democratic institutions, and every 5 years, when there was an election, he would either disqualify candidates, he would throw them in jail, he would exile them, and magically, every time the votes were counted, he got to 80, 90% of the vote, and he retained complete power and is known as the last dictator of Europe. And that's his status today. Well, in 2020, there was this pandemic that we've all experienced over here, and they experienced it there. And Lukashenko said, oh, there's nothing, that virus, I don't see it, so it can't be here. Just drink plenty of vodka and it'll go away. Well, of course, it didn't go away. The country was devastated by COVID and still is. The economy crashed for that and other reasons, and people were really, really desperate and upset. And so they decided to take to the streets in demonstrations all over, protesting. In spite of the fear of the police and the army, they were desperate. And what happened is they realized that an election was coming up at the beginning of August. And they said, maybe we can have a candidate run that could really, run in favor of democracy, and we can finally get rid of this dictator and have a democratic government. So various candidates sort of started popping up. And of course, one was thrown in jail, another disqualified, one had to leave the country with his children, fleeing with his children. And there was one more who happened to be a blogger who people thought would be a great candidate because he really understood the people. And sure enough, he went to register as a candidate. And guess what happened? He was thrown in jail, of course. So the story sounds like a repeat of what happened 5 years before and 5 years before that. And that's the way it seemed, except one thing happened that changed everything. The wife of the blogger decided that in love of her husband and solidarity with him, she would go to register as a candidate, figuring they're not going to let her because that's what always happens. But they let her. And Svetlana Tsikhanouskaya, the wife of this man, became a candidate for president of Belarus. And what Lukashenko hadn't counted on is the representatives of all the other candidates who couldn't run all ran alongside of her and supported her and said, she is our leader. And you can see the three of them. Notice they all happen to be women. And those were the leaders of the campaign, with Svetlana Tsikhanouskaya in the middle there. And people came out in thousands and thousands and tens of thousands in rallies. And people were very excited that they could have democracy. And then August 9th, 2020 came around, the election came, it was clear overwhelmingly she was going to win. And then, of course, what happened? Lukashenko announced that he had gotten 90% of the vote. So this time, people were not going to give up. They were out in the streets, hundreds of thousands of people this time. She has since had to flee to Lithuania, where she's based in Vilnius right now. And we're still at the point where this struggle goes on. And we don't know the outcome, but we have hopes that there will be democracy, and this movement for democracy will be victorious. Lukashenko still controls the government. He controls the army and the police, but the movement is vibrant. It clearly has the majority of people on its side, and I could go on and on. I'm going to stop there. If people want to know more, we can talk about it during question and answers. So just to introduce, the repression has continued. I'll mention that even though this movement has been devoted to nonviolence, it is the Lukashenko government has unleashed violence of enormous proportion on them. Just to give you an idea, at this point, 39,000 people have been detained by the police. 669 people are declared political prisoners. There's 450 cases of documented torture, documented by the UN, and 580 journalists have been arrested. Gives you the scale. But the movement is not far from giving up and is continuing and is strong. and will not give up. I'll now turn it over to Marina to talk about her experience in the middle of this movement.
Yeah, thank you, Joel. Me and my husband went to Minsk in September of 2020 to took part in our son's wedding ceremony. And of course, we've been in touch with all our friends during election. We went to vote for Tikhanovskaya in New York, and it was 96% of people who vote for her. And we took part in 3 marches, and it was end of September 20, September 27, and October 4th. And this picture, it's me and my husband on the march, but it's not pictures done by us. It's pictures was taken by some journalist, I believe, and we found out it in the book published in England about Belarusian protest. So we have it at home. We give it a gift as a gift to Joel. So we also became a yeah, and now we're in a history, and it says that we're not gonna give up. We're gonna continue. And also, I want to mention that a lot of Jewish people who live in different countries, who live in Belarus, came to all these marches. I saw top managers of IT companies. I saw owners of businesses, publishers, writers, musicians, people from all kinds of sport. Everybody was on the marches. And Lukashenko became enemy for everybody and also for Jews. When we're talking about anti-Semitism in modern Belarus, compared to my childhood and my young time, probably it's not such a problem like before. No, people able to study in universities, they want to, not like us. I was able to go to university only because I was top of my class student. I won some contents. Only because of it, I was able to become student. And I was one Jewish girl in my class of 150 people. We don't have this problem now, but Lukashenko himself hates Jews, and he mentioned it many times with very, very awful way. Now Belarusian official propaganda make fun of Jewish people who helps democracy. But my humble opinion that it's gonna pass and our country gonna be free, and we appreciate everybody's helps in this direction. So now we want to talk about our organization, Belarusian at Boston. I was honored with Joel there. We are not very big group. We have about probably 80 people who are actively involved in all our initiatives, and about probably 300 people altogether in Boston area. But I think it's a good number to know each other, to help each other, to help our friends, our relatives who still lives in Belarus and who is fighting every day, who's struggling every day. I just got news literally today that my best friend, son-in-law, was arrested in Minsk because of his position. And it's happened every day, and unfortunately, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. We not only concentrate in fighting with the regime, we also want to unite people with Belarusian background in cultural initiatives, music, sports, children education. So we do many initiatives. And why we want to talk to you today, we want people who has history of fighting for democracy, people who live in this country but have the same roots as us, know about us. That's why I appreciate your time and attention.
I'll mention that I thought the numbers, like you said, 80, then 300 that are out there, those seem big to me, even though it may seem small, because I didn't know there were any Belarusians in Boston before I got involved. So I've always been impressed by how many people there are. So, okay, great.
Yeah,
on to the next.
compared to Chicago or Philadelphia,
Yeah.
it's more
Oh, yeah.
than there.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Marina, did you skip a slide by any chance?
There's some ahead of us.
No.
There's some ahead of us. If
That
you're talking
one.
about
The one with the
Which slide I
photos.
skip?
photos. Oh,
Yes.
where's there?
That one right there. Yeah. Do you wanna...
It's initial. Yeah. It's just example what we do in Boston. We're talking about Chernobyl catastrophe, which affect everybody's life, not only in Belarus, but in the whole Europe. We're talking about our, I'm sorry, about our national Belarusian holidays like Kupala on this picture. We're talking about women movement in memory of everybody who is fighting, women who fighting for their husbands, for their kids, for their parents' colors. It's, yeah, it's the colors of Belarusian flag, which is prohibited now in Belarus. So we're also in touch with congressmen and senators who helps us to bring some initiatives to American government. Also, I guess it's about analysis. Else I want to talk, it's accessing resources of National Archive of the Republic of Belarus. Sonia, you want to tell me something? No?
Your voice is breaking up just a little. I don't know if it's an internet problem, but every once in a while we lose you and your screen freezes momentarily. But we'll just plow right through it. Go ahead.
Okay, so I know that most of you are interested in their roots and history of their families in Belarus, and probably somehow I can help with it because one of my closest friends is deputy of director of Belarusian National Archives, and she told me about work she does for the archive that does for people from all over the world to find their roots and family history. Of course, with COVID, with everything happened to Belarus now, it's not so easy to get information on time. Sometimes it takes months and months, especially I'll give you an example that Hrodno archive has a waiting list for almost 5 years. So many people are looking for their relatives. But if you go to this link and you can see what Belarusian archive can do for you directly. If you need any help with conversation in Russian, I would like to provide you with any information, or I can write some letters or talk to people who are working in archives. That's why you can send me email or call me on the phone telling what you're looking for. As I understand, the process is pretty long because, like, for example, Joel just mentioned that his family has 4 different part of Belarus involved in history of the family. And it's a process to get documents together to compare them to each other to see what's going on. Plus, a lot of archives not completed because of World War II, because of changes of government. It's not easy, but it's doable, and I would like to be any help and to become a bridge between you and your family history.
Great.
I guess that's it.
Yeah,
And
I put all of the key websites and emails, and Marina, your phone number, and you have graciously provided that. Thank you so much. I put that into the
Yeah.
chat, and I
Mhm.
can go into the chat and ask you guys some of the questions or some of
That's
the,
great.
read some of the comments.
Yeah.
So Martha, I knew somebody was going to jump on this when Joel mentioned where his grandparents were from. Martha Forsyth's paternal grandmother was from Cherikov. So you got a landsman.
What's her last name?
Tereshevskaya.
Okay, not my family name, but anyway, great to meet you, Martha. And if you want to email me about that, you know, I'd be happy to talk with you.
I think they had a connection with Homel, where my grandfather was from. And
Okay.
and they married in Ekaterinoslav.
Dnipropetrovsk,
Да,
Dnieper.
да,
Now it's called Dnieper. Yeah,
yes, I've heard.
it's Ukraine. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's my father part from there. Yeah.
Mhm.
You might, Marina, you might have answered this, but maybe you can elaborate a little about how many former Belarusians live in the Boston area. As this is from Sheila, as I have surprisingly met a few. So it's a different question than how many are in your organization, but I don't know if you have any statistics on the number of former Belarusians who live in the Boston area.
Actually, now we're talking about 3,000 people. 3,000 living in Boston area. Yeah, and actually, there are some people who came in the end of 80s, beginning of 90s, mostly Jewish people. And I've met some of them when I came here. These people don't want to know anything about Belarus. It's their position. America is my new homeland. I don't care. I was, I wasn't happy in Belarus. I got a lot of this anti-Semitic against me. I understand this position, and everybody has his own path. But in the last, I can say 5-7 years, a lot of young professionals came through H-1B working visa, through green card for outstanding ability. Actually, we have had one wonderful story about young, very talented Belarusian singer, opera singer. He was fired from the theater because of his position. And we help him, we have friends who are lawyers, and pro bono, they got him outstanding ability visa and green card, and now he's singing in American opera theater.
Oh,
He's not
great.
Jewish, no, but he's singing in Hebrew and Yiddish beautifully. So you might probably ask him to do something for you too.
Yeah, that would be great. You know, your point about the recent immigrants not wanting to talk about it is exactly the point that Joel was making. And we have probably, many of us, heard from our family members that they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to think about it. They don't want to know about it. It was terrible. Now they're in a new life, and that's the life they want to focus on. So it's interesting that that's happening now too.
Yeah. I have to say that I personally feel I've been very enriched, and my life has been enriched by connecting with Belarusians, Jews and non-Jews, and the country itself in the present, not just the past. That's been really important for me.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective that most of us who are amateur or in a couple cases, professional genealogists don't focus on. It's mostly, you know, records in the past.
Yeah.
David Rosen said, with this degree of political unrest and the COVID pandemic, what are the economic conditions like in Belarus? Are they dire?
It's getting worse and worse, especially when a lot of IT company move from Belarus to other places. And because of American and European sanction against regime, and a lot of manufacturing getting down. Of course, now I think is the most horrible situation compared to last 25 years. But I guess it's a price we have to pay to move dictator. Yeah.
Yeah, the sanctions because of Lukashenko's actions, if anybody, you know, just to remind everybody, he scrambled fighter jets to bring down a commercial airliner on the pretense that there was a bomb threat against it, which of course there wasn't. It was flying over Belarusian airspace. It didn't even, it wasn't even beginning or ending its flight in Belarus. And there was
No,
a protest
it was from
leader
Athens
on board.
to
Right?
Vilnius. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was a protest leader on board, and he used that as an excuse to bring the plane down, jail the guy. And that is what prompted all the American and European sanctions.
No.
Okay, let's see. Elaine Abrams. Hi, Elaine. Haven't seen you in a while. Elaine is asking, is there a way for us to be involved in the community? And is the community just Jewish Belarusians or all Belarusians?
I can answer. First of all, yes, we welcome anybody who wants to connect with the Belarusian community in Boston and get involved in whatever way you want, whatever that is, and that's up to you. There's no one way to do it. You might be interested in cultural things, you might be introduced in social things, you might be introduced in political things, but that's up to you. The organization, from my experience, certainly is mostly Christian, some Catholic, some Orthodox, like Belarusians in the country. And but there are some Jews, and you know, we're two of them. I know of one other. But it's mostly non-Jews, but everybody is welcome. I'll mention at my first meeting, which was outdoors in the public garden, we stood around in a circle introducing themselves. And when I introduced myself, I said I was Jewish. And immediately people popped up and said, oh, well, I did a DNA test and I'm 30% Jewish. Then another person said, oh, I did a DNA test and I'm 50% Jewish, even though they were not raised as Jews. That is not their identity or religion, but you know, they were connecting. So we welcome you if you want to contact me or Marina, Elaine. We can talk more about what you're interested in.
Thank you. Thank you.
Enid said, is there any news about the buildup of Russian troops in the past few weeks? Will Belarusians be called up to fight if there's a war? And we have learned recently that there are troops being amassed on the border between Belarus and Ukraine on the Belarusian side.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that's the basis of Enid's question. Do you know anything more about that? Marina, you might have some recent contacts. I don't know.
You know, I've heard just 1 hour before our meeting, I've heard analytics who's thinking that it's very, very once the war will start, but Lukashenko might use it as a point to get more Russian troops into Belarus and keep them there. So everything happened to Kazakhstan recently, everything happened to Ukraine. Unfortunately, it's too bad for us, for Belarus. But Lukashenko used it as a weapon. I need Russian weapons next to me. I need my friend, he called him my older brother Putin next to me. So
Yeah,
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 He's been,
we'll see.
Lukashenko has been called Putin light.
yeah,
I'm not sure how light he is, but
Yeah.
you know,
There's a question. Yeah, I'm thinking
Yeah.
it's question who is lighter.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Actually, Lukashenko was the reason why my family moved to United States. I was very happy being assistant professor assistant professor in the university. My husband had his own CPA firm, so we traveled a lot. And when Lukashenko became a president, we saw immediately how life changed. And my grandmother decided to move from Kiev to Boston and help us to unite the family. Lukashenko was the one reason I left Belarus. So
Yeah.
thanks to him, I have this wonderful country around me.
Yeah. I mean, I'll mention that, you know, Belarusians, when they first became independent, my experience is they were extremely proud of that and, you know, treasured the fact that they were now finally an independent nation. And one of the many reasons that Belarusians are just outraged and so angry at Lukashenko now is he's destroyed that. He's made you know, them a puppet of Russia, which is something they were so glad to get out under the thumb of back in 1991. And now he's returning it to under Russian sovereignty, basically. So it's just one of the many reasons that Belarusians are very, very unhappy with Lukashenko.
Anybody want to say anything else? If you'd like, just unmute yourself or raise your hand, whatever you prefer. We can all unmute ourselves if anybody wants to join in the discussion or not.
Well,
So,
this
hi,
is,
Deb.
this is Deb, and my mother's family came from Hummel, and we're property owners there. They had 2 factories. My family basically all left though before 1918. The last one to leave was in 1927.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So this is Bill Rubin. I have a question. Through DNA, I recently found out that I have a distant cousin in Minsk, and I'm curious about what is life like there now, given COVID, given the pressure. You know, are people, you know, dying there like they are in various places in the States, and are people able to go to work, and what's the availability of vaccines and things like this, if you know?
Yeah, I've been to Minsk in June 2021, so half year ago. They have only Russian vaccine. If you're talking about COVID vaccine, Russian and Chinese vaccine, nobody can get Pfizer or Moderna or Johnson here. But you know, life under Soviet regime and teach our people how to find routes. People going to Lvov, to Ukraine to get Pfizer, people going to Warsaw to get Johnson, people trying to protect themselves. I know that my friends who had business there during the first wave of COVID help doctors and hospitals from their own resources, buy food, buy medical devices and basics need help doctors to survive, because people really working towards them. Actually, I lost 7 of my friends during the COVID recently, and nobody was very old and nobody was very, you know, chronically ill. So it is very, very, very hard there. People working, a lot of people live in the country. Now in Poland, about, you can say about 25,000 Belarusian professionals and 10,000 in Lithuania, people going to Germany, people going to States. So people trying to leave the country. I can compare Minsk now with Minsk I've read in books about German occupation during World War II. People living, but it's nightmare now.
I also assume, given COVID in the countryside and the more rural areas, it's much more difficult as well.
Yeah. Moreover, a lot of doctors were fired because of their anti-dictator position. It is hard to find doctor in hospital, primary physician. So Minsk, so far so good, but talking to people who live even in Vitebsk, in Grodno, totally different situation. I don't even know situation in small towns and villages. Assume it's triple worse.
Thank you.
Marina, is all
When we're
the,
talking,
sorry,
Hmm?
is all the healthcare,
No.
is all the healthcare nationalized and all the healthcare workers work for the government essentially?
No. There are some private clinics, private hospitals, but it's, I could say, 10% of the whole healthcare system. They start having social worker for elderly people, but they don't have home health aid. They don't have such a way of help elderly and lonely people like we have in United States. Not even close. So people really fighting now, and I assume it might took 1 or 2 years to get rid of him. Probably less, because Black Swan usually coming to unexpected places.
Even with Putin's support, do you think he'll be gone? Lukashenko will be gone?
You know, we don't know anything about it's he for this moment. Putin needs Lukashenko because he doesn't have anybody else around him. But all Lukashenko's movement do not let Putin's crew make money. So, and Putin have all money and power. So we'll see. Unfortunately,
So
after
I've just mentioned
go.
that when I was there in 2017, I loved my time there. I loved my trip, but I sort of thought, given that I have many other parts of the world that I want to get to, that I probably wouldn't get back there. But since, because of the movement for democracy, I am determined to get back there once Lukashenko is gone and Belarus is a democratic country. So I'm counting on that. I don't know.
Well, I hope so, because I had a trip planned there that was going to take place, let's see, 2 months after the COVID lockdown happened. So, you know,
very bad timing.
Really bad timing. So we have another question. Sharon is saying, my grandfather was a cantor in Indura between about 1914 and 1924. I saw some photos of it. It's a big ruin. Is anybody interested in restoring it? Do you know what's happening to it? Do you know anything about that area, Marina? Indura, I-N-D-U-R-A.
Indura.
Sharon, if you want to unmute yourself, do you know where it is? Sharon?
Where is it?
I'm not familiar with that name.
Sharon, are you? If you're still here, unmute yourself.
I think it's outside of Grodno.
Grodno. Okay.
Thank you.
So, you know, we can find out because again, we have contacts in archives, and also I know people who are involved with all synagogues abandoned and restored in Belarus. We can ask, please shoot me a mail. I will ask directly people who will.
I just went to Google Maps and it's very close to Grodno, just south of there.
It used to be called AMDUR also, AMDUR, AMDUR.
Yeah.
Never heard about it. No, but we can find out. Yeah, no problem.
Well, unless anybody has any other questions or comments, again, Marina, Joel, thank you so much. There were a couple of comments here that it was fascinating, and I agree, and you're very engaging, and your help in directing people and getting answers will be so greatly appreciated, Marina. So thank you for that too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Does anybody have
Thank you
anything
again.
else, any other topics? If you still want to hang around, we're past our hour mark, but I'll hang around as long as anybody else wants to. If you have anything else on any topic, unmute yourself and tell me what, or ask a question, whatever you'd like.
I was going to say, to follow up on Sonia's ill-advised trip, I was supposed to go this May to Belarus and Ukraine. Needless to say, that ain't going to happen. But I guess the question in regard to that is, when the conditions improve, and that means both health-wise and politically, what should one consider when taking a trip to Belarus? How safe is it? You know, anything else any other helpful hints?
As a tourist, I can answer, and Marina, I'd love to hear your answer too. But first of all, if you mean personal safety, I'm not sure if that's what you mean. Lots safer than I live in Brookline, probably a little safer than Brookline. It's in fact, I remember my guide in Minsk, we were staying at a hotel, and I wanted to go out and hear some music, and my son wanted to do something else, so we went to different things. And the music place was about a mile and a half from our hotel. And I said, can I walk? And she said, oh, yeah. So I walked at night, got back a little bit, I walked back a little bit after midnight across this city. I was alone on streets at various times, and there was just not even the hint of danger. It is far safer than probably many places in the United States. And it's a wonderful place. I had a wonderful guide. I can even give you her name. She would love to do guiding once. She's now doing furniture moving since there's no tourist business. Marina, do you want to answer that?
I bet she was the person I had hired.
Who was that? Who did you have?
Daria, was it?
No, we had Katya Makarevich. I'm still in touch with her. I consider her a friend now. We still communicate.
Yeah. There actually are a couple of other questions here. Oh, Marina, I should let you answer that one before I move on.
I think that I travel a lot through European countries, Central Asia, and I can say that Minsk, one of the most safe places, definitely. And people are extremely friendly. It usually was like this during the Soviet time, and now I can see that my city is still very friendly, and young people speak English, and it's easy to get any places in Minsk, and Hrodna now is beautiful and very clean. And also, again, if somebody wanna go to Belarus, promise we can arrange the best treat for you. It's no doubts. Important key word, Lukashenko should go. Otherwise, the rest of it's less a problem, believe me. And
once
also,
COVID is passed, I think,
a lot
right?
of new, and COVID as well, yeah, because now, it's not the best place to visit because of COVID as well.
The other thing I'll mention,
and yeah.
The other thing I'll mention is right now, one of the many things that Svetlana Tsikhanovskaya is doing, the leader, she is the de facto leader of that country, even though she doesn't control the government. She is meeting with heads of state and high officials all across Europe. She's met with Joe Biden. and is arranging an aid package so that once democracy comes, Belarus, that all of Europe and the United States are going to contribute aid to rebuilding that economy. So things will change. They are thinking about that now and planning ahead of how that's going to happen in the future.
Wow, let's
Yeah.
hope for that. That would be amazing.
I met
Go
sorry,
ahead,
just-
Marina.
I met Tikhanovskaya this summer in New York. We spoke with her and her team, young, smart people with very well picture how our country will be rebuilt. And they had American and European education. They speak languages. They have a lot of good advisors from prominent places. So I believe in my country, and I think it's going to be a good one in a while, but it will be. Yeah, sorry.
Wow, that's great.
Ah.
So a couple other comments. Just Sharon is saying she can't speak, but thanks, Marina, for looking into it. Enduro was Amder to the Jews near Grodno. Yeah, thank you. Judy also said that too. Deb is asking, are there old property or phone book type records to find out where my Margolin family lived or their factories were? Do you happen to know about that from a records perspective, Marina, or anyone else who might know of that? And what's the area, Deb, if you want to unmute yourself? What's the area again? Here, I'm asking you to unmute yourself, Deborah. You're not unmute, you're still muted, Deb. Yeah, you're still muted. I don't know what's going on. Did you try to unmute yourself?
She's on mute, yeah. She's mute.
No, you're muted still, Deb. If you want to put something in
And
the
the
chat.
host unmute her?
I am the host and I was trying to unmute her, but I can't.
She's only on a phone. She just put it in the chat, so we probably can't unmute her.
That's the problem.
Because I couldn't do it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Did you put the area in the chat? Let's see. Oh, I see. She's got some work going on in her house and there's some banging. So anyway.
She just put in Homel, H-O-M-E-L.
Oh yeah, Homel. Gomel.
Mhm.
Do you, Marina, do you know anything about records availability there, or does anybody else know?
No, Homel is available. They told you only with Grodno we have problems. So please shoot me email and I can contact people. And we should probably create procedure how we're gonna get information. Let me do it. And,
yeah, and I can work with you, or somebody in our group would work with you and see if we can put that together and get the word out to everyone.
Yes, and also I see in chat asking about cemetery in Jewish cemetery in Minsk.
I was getting to
I just figured out how
some of them
the banging is done.
Oh, there you are, Deb. Okay.
Yeah, I had to figure out how to get out of chat and then
Okay.
unmute myself. I put myself on a phone just because of timing.
So
I'm not.
I think you might have heard that Marina said the Grodno, am I right, Marina, that the Grodno archives were easier to work with?
No.
What?
No,
It's just the opposite.
Homel,
Yeah. Yeah.
Grodno is very hard, yeah. So probably it's changed, but situation now says that the hardest part of all archives are Grodno's archives.
Yeah. Is that where you would find? Sorry, is that where you would find the property or phone book type records in the archive, or would that kind of record
in archives? Yeah. Yeah,
Yes, okay.
they
Good.
have all different, as a, sure.
Here they might be in a library. That's why I asked about public libraries.
Public libraries, they working properly everywhere, and it's a huge library in Minsk, but I don't know about historical archive there, but we can find out. It's a matter of question. Just give me a list of questions and we can work with it. And again,
Yeah, it is. Sorry, go ahead.
Kemi Klein
finish.
asking about are there any surviving Jewish cemetery in the Minsk area? Actually, one cemetery, very old Jewish cemetery in the middle of the city, was closed long time ago. Some were moved to other cemeteries, some not. But again, if you have names and time of, you know, people, there's data, we can try other resources, but we don't have any Jewish cemetery, Jewish only cemetery open now in Minsk.
Wait,
Elaine,
were they open a few years ago or no?
No.
You mean long
No.
time closed?
We have Jewish people buried in regular city cemetery, and we have 5 of them in Minsk. Yeah.
I know
also,
excuse me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Elaine Abrams, did you want to say something?
I don't want to take time from questions, but I would just like to tell a rather nice story that happened, that I was there in 2018 after the Warsaw conference, and went with a driver to where I knew my grandfather's brother and the children were killed. Dvoritz, which at that time was part of Poland. The driver stopped 2 women on the street. One got in the car and we went to her house where her husband was. They were lovely, lovely people. He had been a principal of a school. She was a retired teacher. And he had been very interested in the Jewish history in the town. For 3 hours, he walked with me around the village, the town, and showed me where the people had been held and took me to the mass grave where they would have been killed. And after I came back here, I wrote them a thank you and put pictures and used Google Translate to write it in Belarusian and Russian and English and put the 3 addresses on the envelope, but didn't know if it arrived. And then I got an email from someone in Baltimore saying, I am from Dvoritz and my mother is a neighbor of Rosa and Arkady. And they received your mail and thank you. And like this, he and I email from time to time when I say, how are they? And he tells me what a conversation has been with his mother. So I just want to say that I met lovely people.
Wonderful. I'll mention that when we were in Vitebsk, we met with the rabbi of that synagogue. In that photo you saw a while ago, that brand new synagogue, it actually, we were in that building, but it hadn't been officially inaugurated until after we left, but shortly after we left. And we asked them about were there any cemetery records there with my family name. My family name from there is Chavinson, Chavinson, that sort of thing. It's a rare name, even though it sounds ordinary, but it's a rare name. And afterwards, he sent us records showing that there were 5 people buried in that cemetery with my family name, and we didn't, that died, let's say, in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 70s, I think in one case. We didn't think we left anybody behind. So we don't even know, we can't be 100% sure yet that these people were related to us, but they might have been. So that's another way you can go. If you go to where there are a few active synagogues and talk to people there, they might have records. That's a long shot, but you can try that.
Joel,
Yeah.
do you see Enid Sherenson's name?
I
Is
do.
that name similar to yours?
Well, it has elements, but I don't think so. Chaven son. It's a little, it's, the son is definitely the same.
It could have morphed.
It's the same. It could have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, the original name was Tsarinsky or close to
Okay.
that.
Okay, that's a little bit off, but thanks for thinking of that, Sonia. Yeah, you never know. I mean, you're right.
never know,
Names
yeah.
do change and morph in
Yeah.
crazy ways.
Well, as you can see in the chat, lots of people thought the program was terrific and really enjoyed it. And I think from my perspective, very inspiring, very informative. Marina, you are a treasure, and we would love to have you back. I don't know how many more times, but having said that, is there anybody in our group who would volunteer to sort of coordinate the communication with Marina? Just so that we don't have people bombarding her all the time with everything. Maybe it would help if you had one, even if you got an email chain going with a group of people that were interested in communicating with Marina, but someone who is willing in our group to coordinate that. Would anybody offer to volunteer for that?
How would you do that?
Well, I don't know exactly, but we can figure it out through an email chain or through probably, I don't know, phone calls, whatever. Even a Google group, lots of different options.
We can do my advice, we can do Zoom conversation about what you need, and after that we can do the list of needs, and I'll talk to my people in archives and other places and divide by needs. I guess it's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's based on location too. So those people who have interest in a certain geographic area, you could deal with, Marina, in one group of questions. And we are in the process of doing an archive research project with someone else. And that's how we're doing those, by geographic location and, grouping those together. So I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but is anybody offering to coordinate that? No, I'm getting crickets here. Come on.
Well, I can't take on anything new right now. I'm flat out. There's some health issues.
That's okay, Deb. I mean,
listen, I don't know if that's better than crickets. I would if I could, but I'm at a place where in order to take on something, I have to get rid of something. I just can't.
I know the concept. It doesn't work well, though.
Why don't you schedule another Zoom as Marina suggested?
Yeah. Okay, you mean
with her?
Yeah, but the Zoom would then be for people who wanted to have some. Well, let me back up a second. If the best way for you to do this, Marina, is to have groups by geographic area, is that the best way? Let me ask you that question.
I don't think so. I don't know. Let me talk to my people in archives. I think sometimes not geographic group, but type of research. For example, people who are looking for cemetery, probably it's one thing. People who are looking for documents and history of the family, it's another group. We just having in mind that we have problems with Hrodna for now, but rest of it, let me talk to people, but I wanna know first what kind of research need to be done to
Okay,
address
well
it
then,
properly.
why don't we just have people contact you? I put your contact information in the
Yeah,
chat.
yeah.
And if you want to put up the slide with your information in it. so
It's up,
anyone can-
it's up. Oh,
No,
that.
it isn't.
Oh, no, it isn't. That's the wrong one. No, you're right.
Yeah, hold on,
Right,
hold
it was
on.
the other one. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
There it is. Okay,
There.
so copy down Marina's email and phone number, whichever is easiest. I guess email would be easier because then you can have some
Up to you.
detailed information written down.
Yeah.
Contact Marina, tell her what you want. And then Marina, you can always let me know if you need to coordinate another Zoom. Or you can go ahead and coordinate it with those people directly. I don't need to be involved at all. But I'm not in a position to coordinate this much, you know. I'll get a message out. Joel, actually, if you would be willing to,
Sure,
you can
what?
post a message to the Google group anytime you want and tell people, you know, how to contact Marina or, you know, organize a Zoom or whatever it is you want. And if you need some guidance on how to post to the Google group,
Okay,
I can,
yeah. Okay,
actually, all you need to do is the email that I sent out with the link. Use that as your destination, you know, who you're sending it to, and that goes to the whole Google group.
oh, okay, right,
I think it's JGSGB Belarus SIG, something like that.
okay.
Okay.
And then so that will include obviously people who were not on this call. So again, make them aware of that they can contact Marina as well. Is that what you're saying?
Well, there isn't a way to isolate just the people who are here.
Right, of course.
In the Google group.
But that's what I'm communicating.
What I might suggest is if you have that, if you send an email to everyone and tell them if you're interested to let you know, and then if you care to, you can set up a separate Google group for those people who are interested. Kind of a subset of our.
Okay, you want me to do this? I'd rather not be in the middle of this, especially since other commitments that I have. I mean, I could do it, but.
Okay. Well, at least if you will send a message out to the Google group with
I'll do that.
at Marina's, and then, you know, you can go from there. And Marina, if you're flooded, which I suspect you may be, we'll have to figure something else out so that you can, you know, I mean, you have other commitments, I'm sure, too.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. And I have business trip in the end of February for 2 weeks in Balkan region. So, but we will figure it out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Good.
So what we decided is Joel's going to just basically email everyone in the Google group and tell them what to do to contact Marina. And then Marina, if you get flooded, just let us know and we'll figure something out on how to manage it.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody. I assume nobody else has anything else. Let me just check the chat and see. Okay. Everybody said thank you. Great program and
thank you to all of you.
So if everybody would leave and Joel and Marina and Jesse, if you can stay on for just a second.
Sure.
And I'm going to say goodbye and thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much.
To see you.
Thank you, everyone.
Sonia, can I stop recording?
Yes, thanks, Jesse.